So not too long ago, I started to get a lower back pain with my job, and it's not that unusual. I mean, without going into a lot of specifics, it does involve some heavy stuff, and it involves me being in awkward positions. Oftentimes, I'm leaned over, I'm bent at an angle, stuff like that. And at first, I assumed that it was just a case of dealing with older age, because after all, I am 44 years old, and I do have a few pops and creaks to me, kind of like my old pickup truck outside. It's got over 210,000 miles on it, and there's a squeak that I have not been able to isolate or figure out what's causing it. I've replaced rubber bushings on the wheels, and I've replaced other things on it, and it just still squeaks. I kind of figure it's like me. It's old, it's seen better days, and it's just got a few pops and squeaks. But the pain in my lower right side, it moved over into my lower left side, and it started to really bother me because it was starting to become really discomforting. And then later on, I got a pain in my hips with it, and I went to a doctor, which was, excuse me, I went to a doctor, which was actually a bad move because I got a misdiagnosis. I got put on antibiotics for something that I didn't actually have. But the pain just kept bothering me, and it kept really getting to the point that it was, I think part of the reason that it was psychologically worrying me so much is the not knowing of what it was. You know, if I'd even if it had been something terrible, which God forbid, I wouldn't want that to happen. I'm always terrified of health problems, but if I'd have just known, you know, what is this? What's causing this? That would have gone a long way towards alleviating the problem, I think, for me, because mentally it had become a major freaking deal in my mind. I thought, well, am I going to end up crippled for life and can't work? You know, what am I going to do? And somewhere along the way, I had posted in a medical forum. It was a bad mistake for me to do this because, I'm convinced sometimes that the anonymity of media just brings out the very fucking worst in people. People are just such assholes on it. But anyway, I commented about my medical problem, and I said, does anybody else who has this problem, do they ever get a pain in their side right here? And the very first fucking comment was this guy, and he says, everybody's got pain, and everybody lives in chronic pain, and I have chronic pain. Some days I can barely walk, and what you need to do is focus on the good things. You need to focus on the bright side of life, and you need to stop whining and complaining and feeling sorry for yourself and all this other shit. And the very first 5 people who commented had to say, thank you for putting this thread into perspective. I forget that I'm supposed to be grateful, or I forget to look at the good things, or I forget to stop and smell the roses, and, just this horse shit. And normally in a situation like that, I would have just abandoned the thread. I'd have said, well, I'm not getting any answers here. But because I was in a bad mood at this point, I commented, and I said, well, way to go, all you guys. Not a single fucking one of you answered the goddamn question that I asked. I asked if anybody has a pain in their upper right side. It's not that hard to say yes or no, But of course, with whatever, I batted back and forth with him for a few minutes, and I just more or less told them all where to put it, and I left. But strangely enough, and I'm not going to get into the topic of my health here because that's not the topic of the video, I found out through a guy on YouTube, you could put his name in, his name is Gary Crowley. He had some exercises with tennis balls, and I said to myself, fucking tennis balls. If I'm going to sit on tennis balls, this isn't going to do me any good. I mean, I'm going to lay down on my back with a tennis ball. And the minute I did it, within a few minutes, it started actually freaking working. I could actually feel this fluttering feeling inside of me. And all of a sudden, my pain was greatly alleviated. It turned out I went to my chiro, and it was not covered by my insurance, so I had to pay a little out of pocket, but he's kind of reasonable. But he told me to go see a massage therapist, which I had to dip into my my savings account a little bit for that. But she actually told me, well, if you're a tense person by nature and you have a lot of anxiety and stress on the job you're doing, and she explained it all to me. She said, your muscles are always like this. You're constantly trying to flex everything while you're working, even though you're doing it subconsciously, and you're tight. You're tight as hell all back here and all in your hips and everything. And when they were done with me, I felt 100 times better. I mean, I was like, wow, this is what was wrong with me. I just had some tight muscles that needed loosening up a little bit. And the thing that got me about, and that's what gave me the idea for this video, is that the whole idea that I had a legitimate medical question for this medical forum, and all everybody did was give me the old preaching round, and I really do not like being preached to. If there's anything that's going to really piss me off, it's somebody preaching to me about something, probably because of AA and a lifetime in the Catholic Church before I left that. But the whole toxic positivity thing, somebody I saw online typed it out as toxic positivity, and how it correlates with like AA people and stuff like that. And I realized I've seen this in my everyday life outside of just the cult religion, but it's a permeating thing that I never did quite know what was wrong with it until, after this little medical forum fiasco thing, I started thinking about that. I started thinking about that when I was a kid. There were certain members of my family that told me, if I had a legit complaint about something or I was just sad about something, usually when I was sad about something, that's when it really brings out the real cruel bullying of the toxic positivity crowd, Well, he looks like he's down in the dumps and looks like he's about to cry. Let's really heap it on him now, But it was always, there's other people who have it worse than you. There's other people who have it harder than you. And are you really going to cry about that? What kind of man are you? And all that kind of bullshit. And I realized none of that shit ever made me feel any better about a situation that had me down, even if it was a trivial situation, even if in the back of my mind I actually knew it was a trivial situation. I said, I've done this before in the past. I would say to myself, there is no reason for me to feel this fucking sad about something this silly. I mean, literally, and I'm not even going to state the examples because you would probably laugh, and that's okay too. I got another video about that, by the way, later. But it occurred to me that the more I stuffed my feelings, the more I told myself, man up, the more I told myself, just get over it, the more I told myself, other people got it worse than you, the worse I felt about myself. And I remember in AA, whenever I had a complaint, or whenever I felt bad, or whenever I just had a really fucking bad day, I noticed the toxic positivity crowd, they never had the way to talk to you like an equal. They didn't say something like, hey man, I know how you feel. I've had shit like that happen to me and it gets me really freaking down. We'll get through this. I never had anybody say something like, yeah, well, let me tell you about this one time when this happened to me and I felt totally destroyed and it was comical as all get out in retrospect. Now, never saw that one time among the AA crowd. For one thing, the AA crowd never talks to you on an equal playing field. They're either preaching to you or they're trying to outdo you. Like if you got a problem, they'll say something like, well, that ain't nothing. This week I had 3 friends commit suicide and I had a car wreck that killed like 5 members of my family and all that. You get the idea. I'm sure you know exactly those types I'm talking about too. But another underlying thing I noticed about these toxic positivity people is they always seem so very fucking angry. Have you ever noticed that they never seem empathetic? They never seem like they're actually empathizing with anything about you. They're just pissed off at you because you dared show a negative emotion. So they bombard you with all these demeaning little phrases, get over it. Think on it. Why don't you look at something positive for a change? Well, why don't you just be grateful? They never seem like they're actually coming from a place of actual positivity when they're doing this kind of thing to you. They'll either tell you to look on the bright side, and they'll say, don't be so negative, or they'll tell you something like, think happy thoughts. What they're really telling you is, I don't want to hear you complain. So I want you to repress your emotions and repress your feelings, and I want you to say that because you feel bad about something, you're not really much of a person in my eyes because I don't like listening to your complaints. So I'm going to shut you up by telling you to be quiet and be grateful. There was one common theme I noticed among one old-timer in an AA meeting that was one of the worst about that. He was like, I just hate it when people come in here and complain. And yet every single share in every single meeting, he was always talking about how much he hated his kids, which sounds like that's your fucking personal problem as a dad. Talked about how much he hated his wife, talked about how much he hated his job. And I would think to myself, I've been sitting here listening to this guy day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, and all he's doing is complaining and whining about his kids and his wife and his family and his job. But then he would always conclude his share with, and I know how awesome the AA program is. It's saved my life. It's given me a life worth living. It's made me grateful for my sobriety. And I thought, yeah, but you don't sound very grateful to me. You sound like a complaining old bastard that's just miserable with the state of the world in general. And you want to be the one doing all the complaining while all the rest of us don't have a right to complain because we have to always look on the bright side of life. We have to do like, the Monty Python movie where they're all crucified on the cross at the end and they all break out into a song. And of course you did have the eternally grateful, starry-eyed types in the rooms. I mean, and I'm sure you know the types I'm talking about, which I either thought they were insane or phony. I never could figure out which. The ones that say, I just love what was shared. I love everything that was shared. I love what everyone said, Everything is just love for me today, Like, when I got here, I was living on the streets, and I was stealing out of garbage cans, and I was stealing dirty needles out of sewers, and now today, I just realized that God made it all better for me today, and I don't have nothing to worry about. I faced legal charges one time for allegedly having sexual acts with a minor who was only 12, and my sponsor told me, God doesn't look at age, and I just realized it was so true, and I'm just so happy to be here. I either think the 12 steps ran them crazy, or I think they're just making that shit up. I don't think nobody is in a state of constant positivity all the time. I think that's an illusion and a lie. I mean, whether it's for yourself or towards other people, in my opinion, you almost need to understand and validate your own emotions. It doesn't mean that, I'm throwing a temper tantrum because I'm down and that's a good thing or whatever it is, but it means that I am, as a person, going to feel these things. I'm going to feel bad. I'm going to feel depressed. I'm going to feel whiny. There's no law written on the books that says you can't sit down all by yourself and have a fucking pity party if that's what you're in the mood for. And there have been times I've been in the mood to do just that, feel fucking sorry for myself. There have been times that I've known logically, and I've known from a philosophical standpoint, from however you want to objectively look at this, I've known I got nothing to complain about today. But at the same time, I still felt like sitting down by myself somewheres and saying, something, I don't think anybody's got it as shitty as I've got it today. I don't think anybody else has to go through the kind of shit that I have to tolerate. I don't think anybody else has to deal with the kind of pain I'm feeling right now. And you know what? I'm still alive and I'm still well, and I'm not suicidal as a result of it. So yeah, I've had a couple of pity parties here and there. I may have even had a few thousand over the years, and something, they didn't make me any less of a person, and they didn't make me a horrible human being, because I had some valid emotions that I had to feel in order to get through, to figure out what I needed to do to fix my own problems. If my car is broke down on the side of the road and somebody stops and tells me, well, you just need to be grateful, other people are getting killed on the road today, they haven't done one fucking thing to help me get the car up and running. Or like somebody very accurately put it online, if you have a headache and some AA person says to you, well, you could be dead right now from your alcohol abuse. You could be in jail right now because of your alcohol abuse. The person said, yeah, but right now I've got a fucking headache and I need an aspirin and I need a glass of water. I mean, where is gratitude going to solve that problem? There's an almost evil, dismissive type of way of treating people when you're trying to force them into a state of constant gratitude, when you're trying to force them to feel nothing but gratefulness all the time. And it begs a very serious question here. Why am I supposed to adjust how I feel so that somebody else who believes everybody should be positive can be happy? I mean, that's a question I never even asked during all the years of being told, don't complain, don't feel bad, don't feel sorry for yourself. It never occurred to me that, you know what? Those people that are telling me not to complain, those people that are telling me I never can feel sorry for myself, not one single one of them ever came and paid a bill for me. Not one single one of them ever took a physical hangover away from me and put it into their own self. Not one single person who ever had all these judgments and all these prescriptions for how I should feel and how I should act and what I should think and what I should do. Not any of them ever put out a hand to try to help me when I was actually really down. I'll go back to the car analogy again. If my car tire is flat, and a guy stops and helps me change the tire, I consider that doing something for me to help me out in a bad situation. If he stops and looks at the flat tire and preaches to me, I don't think he's done a fucking thing but feed his own pathology. Oh, I told that guy, I told him, you better not look depressed when you're changing that tire. You better be grateful because other people have it harder than you. And I really do think that's all that is for these kinds of people. I think they get a rush out of sinus problems again. My weather is up and down here, which keeps messing up my sinuses. But I think they get a rush off of that. I think it's it's a type of bullying that I think has gained wider spread acceptance because of the shame involved in complaining, the shame involved in feeling sorry for yourself. There's a great shame in the world about, today I'm kind of just having a bad day and I really just kind of want to sit and be by myself and feel like I got it harder than the rest of the world today. You don't want to admit that in public. You don't want to say in public, something, I feel like fucking complaining today because I feel like fucking complaining. Nobody really wants to listen to someone who's going to bitch and complain 24/7. I mean, I'm not saying that, and I think anybody with half a brain of common sense knows what I'm talking about. There was a coworker I had one time that he would come in the morning and he'd say, you know something, I'm sick of all this goddamn shit, and I hate this fucking overtime, and I hate this fucking manager, and half these goddamn coworkers are lazy, and my fucking car didn't run really well this morning, and my wife's complaining about it, and how about you? That's literally how every day was with him. He would have this long litany of complaints, and then he'd say, how about you? And I was like, well, I guess I'm good right now. But it's more pervasive than just the AA cult. It's something that I see a whole lot on a regular basis. These people that feel duty-bound to find someone that has a gripe, that has a minor complaint, that has whatever, and smack them down real hard because you look like such a tough guy when you do that. You look really hardcore when you do something like that. It's kind of like there was an article not too long ago about the employee shortage with a lot of these restaurants, and a lot of the restaurants in my local area, I don't go to restaurants, but a lot of them are closed on the inside. Those dining rooms are closed where you can't go in actually and order anything. You got to sit in the drive-thrus. And somebody had posted online, I sure am getting tired of having to go to a drive-thru when I go someplace. And of course this asshole had to chime in and say, well, let's see you go in there and do the job. Let's see you blah, 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 blah. I'm pretty sure the fucking person knows that the people inside are having a hard way to go. I'm pretty sure the fucking person knows that there's a reason why these places are closed down, and I'm sure the person just needed to blow off some steam. They didn't need you to come riding in there like some fucking gratitude hero to smack them down and make them feel terrible for their voicing an opinion. Anyway, I think I actually kind of ranted and raved a little bit on this, and you know what? That's okay too. I'll see you guys hopefully next time.